Welcome back. Let's talk about geologic age. So geologic age is putting kind of a time frame on a rock, an event, a process, a fossil. Not an exact numeric age, that's absolute age. This is more of a range. So when we talk about geologic time, we're talking about all of Earth's history broken down into sections. Geologic time is broken into eons, eras, periods, and epochs. So let's kind of talk about each of those. So broken down into eons, all of Earth's history can be broken down into the Hadean, Archean, Proterozoic, and Phanerozoic. The Hadean, this is the time between Earth's creation, over 4.5 billion years ago, and the age of the oldest rocks discovered, around 4-ish billion years ago. So there was a gap in time here from when the Earth formed and the first rock formed. All right, because remember, when early Earth formed, it was kind of a hot, molten ball of magma. It took some time to cool down, almost 500 plus million years for the first rock to form. So that was the Hadean. The Archean was defined as the time when single-cell life developed. So very early single-celled life, just kind of swimming around the ocean, just single-celled little organisms and bacteria existed. That was it. Archean, archaic, old. Then the Proterozoic. So this is when multi-celled organisms, soft-bodied organisms, first appeared in the ocean. So it took, let me move me up here. So from when the Earth formed to when we had kind of visible life, it almost took 2 billion years. These are in thousands. So this is 2,500 million years ago. MY stands for million years ago. So that was 2.5 billion years ago. So it took over 2 billion years just to get multi-celled organisms, something reminiscent of something we can see on Earth. And that was in the Proterozoic. And then we have the Phanerozoic from about 541 million years ago to present. This is when abundant animal and plant life took hold. This is when the Cambrian explosion occurred 541 million years ago. You answered that in the Unit 2 lab. So let's talk about the Hadean. Again, early Earth, just a molten ball of material coming together under the force of gravity, that collision creating so much heat. So early Earth was just a hot molten ball. It took time to cool down. It took over 500 million years to cool down till we get to the Archean. So in the Archean, again, single-celled life, mats of bacteria, still a nasty place to live, Earth. The atmosphere not quite what it was. So again, a nasty place to live. That's what it was. Then fast forward to the Proterozoic eon, multi-celled organisms, soft-bodied material living in the ocean, seaweeds, jellyfish, those sorts of things. And then the Phanerozoic eon, abundant life, Cambrian explosion. This is when most things that we know and understand, plants and animals, occurred on Earth or came to prominence on Earth. So we can take eons and break them down into eras. So we take the Phanerozoic eon and break it into eras. We can break it into the Paleozoic, Mesozoic, and Cenozoic. Phanerozoic is Latin. That's the current eon we're in, which means visible life. We can see it. Proterozoic, still small material, getting into some of these soft-bodied material. But again, what most animals we think of historically in the past, fish, amphibians, reptiles, dinosaurs, whatever of the past, all exist in the Phanerozoic eon. But again, that's divided into 3 eras. The Paleozoic, meaning ancient life, Mesozoic, middle life, Cenozoic, recent life. The most distinctive change in fossils happens between eras. So we come up with these distinctions based on a change in fossils from one to the next. So looking at rock layers, wow, the fossils in this rock layer look really different than the fossils in the layer above it. There's a big change there. So that's how eras were broken up. So the Paleozoic, ancient life, again, mostly sea creatures, bugs, some stuff on land. Plants are now starting to exist on land as well. So trilobite is a very common old Paleozoic organism, a lot of fossils of those. Mostly sea life, some stuff on land. Then we have the Mesozoic era, the middle time. This is when dinosaurs existed in the Mesozoic era. They did not exist in the Paleozoic nor in the Cenozoic. Mesozoic, middle life, this is them. After they went extinct and mammals kind of came to prominence, that was a big change in the fossil record. So we have the Cenozoic era. So you see a lot of weird mammals. So that's how it's kind of broken up. We can take those eras and break them up into periods. Let me move me again. So again, beginning the Paleozoic era, which is the beginning of the Phanerozoic eon, 541 million years ago, we have the Cambrian period, hence the Cambrian explosion. At this point in time, life became abundant. It wasn't just soft stuff in the ocean. It wasn't just kind of little cellular stuff. It exploded into the sea and onto land. So we have eras divided into these shorter units called periods. And I mentioned this, but periods are the unit of geologic time we will mostly talk about in here. Talking about rocks, talking about fossils, we'll use these terms. Quaternary, Neogene, Paleogene, Cretaceous, Jurassic, Triassic, Permian, Carboniferous, sometimes broken down into the Mississippian and Pennsylvanian, Devonian, Silurian, Ordovician, Cambrian. Sometimes Paleogene and Neogene are combined to be called the Tertiary. So it's these periods that of anything on the geologic time scale that we will probably use more often than not. And then in some cases, periods can be broken down into epochs, which are even smaller units of time. Maybe just a little too small for what we need it. Eras are a little too broad. Eons are very, very broad. So again, periods is a good chunk of time that we can use to describe pieces of the geologic puzzle. Those are good time frames to use. We'll go ahead and pause there. When we come back, we'll talk about absolute age. All right, so putting a numeric value on age. We'll see you back here in just a second.